Justin here with Rokslide.com. I'm going to go over the Lowa, hopefully that's the right way to pronounce it, that's the way I say it, Lowa. These are the IROX. They're Gore-Tex. They're a mid, nice hiking boot. Been using them for a couple weeks now. I've had them a little bit longer than that, but just, I wore them around, around the house, wore them to work back a couple days just to kind of get a feel for them, and then had them in the mountains for about a week in Idaho. So this is going to be an initial review, not, I'm not going to say what I think it's going to do in 200, 300, 400 miles or whatever, but right now I'm looking at about 80 miles in the backcountry on them, and just under. And so I'm going to go over some of my thoughts on them. I've got a list with some notes, so hopefully I won't forget too much, but if I do, and I'm sure you guys will come up with some good questions, just post them up in the forums and I'll answer them. Try to get some close-up shots of things that that you guys like to see. So anyway, so I wear a size 9.5. My feet are what I would say fairly narrow. I haven't had them like professionally measured or anything like that, but I normally don't like a wide boot. I have fairly high arches. When I used to play basketball a lot, used to have to get insoles with, and add those into my shoes for arch support. So give you kind of an idea. I've got, I would say, fairly narrow heels, but I don't have a really, really long, slender foot like some guys that have a foot that's as narrow as mine, but with like an 11 or 12. I'd say mine are fairly proportionate. These boots, my feet seem to lock in good on them. I think that if you had any wider foot than I do, some guys would have an issue with the toe box because it's definitely probably a little bit tight, but for me it works perfect. Didn't have any issues. The first day that I walked quite a bit in Idaho, I think I did 13 or 14 miles with a pack on. I had about 40 pounds in there, and I did get a little tiny bit of a hot spot on my pinky toes on both feet as I was coming down the hill, kind of finishing up those last few miles. So if you like a really wide toe box on boots, then I would say this is probably narrow or average from my experience. So let's see what else here. So heel lock, these lace really nice, really tight. I think you get this part here laced in really nice. I think that's what helps a lot for me with the heel lock. So if I've got those tightened down good, I was getting zero heel lift in these. I was going up some really, really steep hills, down steep hills, doing some side hilling. I felt like that locked in really well. So very happy with that. Really good fit there. For stability, the sole seems to be these are a hiking boot. They're not a cheap hunting boot, like I would wear like late season with really heavy packs, but they're fairly stiff. When you go side to side, they're really stiff. I like wearing a sheep type boot when I'm doing those long, heavy pack outs and things like that, but I think these would definitely work. But when used as intended, for a hiking boot or for lighter packs, then they work awesome. I have no issues going on the side hills. Pretty good grip on the heels coming downhill. Like I said, I had about a 40-pound pack on, and I was going down. I don't know how steep it was, but it was steep enough that you'd be sliding, if you were on wet grass and things like that. So I had to be careful. But these definitely seem to grip well going up and down that hill. I walked with them in the snow. Had to cross about a mile of snowfield as I crossed over the pass, and these did good. They did slide around a little bit side to side, but it was melting snow. I think pretty typical grip of what I would expect on wet logs and rocks and that sort of stuff. I don't know if you try to kind of come in a little bit closer so you can kind of see the sole. I felt like I had really good grip. Had to walk down when we were doing some of you guys know our bear hunt didn't go so well, but we got into some wolves, and so going down into the bottom of that basin a couple times, I would walk up and down a couple logs to get through, and really felt confident walking on that kind of stuff in these. I felt like I got good grip and I wasn't worried about sliding. So same for wet grass. mean, that stuff's always slick, but I felt like these worked well. So let's see here. So I covered some traction, side hilling, and you know, like the ability to like kick in steps and things like that when you're in, say, like sod and dirt and whatever. That was one of the questions we got. These seem to work fine for that. Again, they're probably not quite as stiff as your dedicated, you know, heavy duty 9-10 inch sheep boot, right? But for a hiking boot, compared to the other ones I've worn quite a few other different hiking boots. These are definitely, I would say, in the top of those type of boots. I actually don't like wearing hiking boots hunting that much, just because of losing that stability and the ability to kick in steps, things like that, and the ankle stability and whatnot. But these so far have been working really well, and I don't have fear, you know, going out and expecting to harvest an animal and then packing it out. I had no issues with that on this last trip, so very happy with that. Let's see. So feel with one of the questions I got was feel when carrying a pack. You know, they're super comfortable. The one kind of complaint that I do have with these, and it's probably just my feet, and obviously feet are different. I find the insoles inside to be too stiff. I wore them for about, I used the regular insoles that came with them for about 45, 50 miles, something like that. Pack on, pack off, different stuff like that. And I would get more foot fatigue than I would expect on those kind of hikes. I did two of the days over in Idaho. I actually had, you know, back to back, where one day was, I don't know, 13 miles or 14 miles or something, and the next day was same deal. And in between those, after basically the first day I hiked with the regular insoles in, got back, my feet were sore from that distance and with the pack and things like that. The next day I switched them out and I put my super feet insoles in, and which are a little bit more cushioned, I guess, a little bit softer, and again walked another 14 miles or so, 13 or 14 miles, and much better. So again, it's just probably a personal thing, but I've noticed that these are definitely stiffer insoles than what I prefer, and so I'm gonna leave my super feet in and just keep running them that way. And like I said, so far I've been happy doing it that way, so it works pretty good. As far as like going over sharp rocks and things like that, the soles are firm enough that you get none of that poking through when you're walking over rough terrain. I didn't notice ever any you know, sharp rocks poking to where you could feel them through your feet or through the soles, I guess. So they work good for that if you're in rough terrain. They have a kind of a mesh on the upper, and I don't know how, I didn't get any issues with rocks and things on there, but I caught here on a piece of barbed wire when I was turkey hunting, and so it's obviously it's not going to be a full grain leather upper type deal where you can just kind of go over anything and not worry about them snagging and cutting and things like that. So in the mesh area here, you do have to probably be a little bit careful, but normal out in the field stuff didn't have a problem. Like I said, I didn't get any marks on there, didn't get any cuts on there from when I was side hilling on rocks. So they seem to be pretty tough. Lacing system. So I'm try to get it close again here, and I'll get some close-up photos too that I'll put on the forums. But they've got a basically like a almost like parachute cord type lace system here that runs along the side there, and then the laces run through them, and they tighten up really well. When you pull at the top, they seem to really pull through each eye or whatever you want to call it, and to me they really tighten up well. They have the deal on the tongue to run your laces through to hold it centered. I don't use it because they have the quick laces on the sides, so you'd be constantly pulling that in and out. So I didn't use it, but the tongue stayed where it should. Didn't have an issue with that. I don't really know why they put it there with having the side, you know, quick release deals, which makes it easy to get in and out. Like I said, for the heel slip, I always lock this part in here really tight, and I like to kind of tighten the upper part of my boot more versus, you know, where the bottom part, I like to leave it a little bit on the looser side and not crush the top of my foot to keep my foot in there So, but tightening it, what I would consider the normal amount, foot stayed in well, everything snugs up good, and you know, like I said, they were comfortable. So let's see. Oh, they're also I think I mentioned that they are Gore-Tex. They breathe so well that one of the days when I was hiking through a bunch of really wet grass, it was wet and cold, and I started thinking my boot was leaking because I could feel the cold through the boot. Turns out that they don't. They hold water really well. I've kind of since tested that. I'm getting no leakage through there so far with this many miles on them, and but that does kind of speak to the breathability on them. Like I said, you can feel warm and cold through them on those long days. Putting a lot of miles on, my feet stayed reasonably cool. Obviously, you're going to sweat, but I felt like I was getting good breathability there. Take my feet off, my boots off at the end of the day, and it wasn't like I had soaked socks. So they definitely seem to be working well there. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all that I can think of right now. So again, I'm sure I'm probably missing some stuff, and I'll come up with some more things, or you guys will come up with some more questions. So definitely please post them up on Rokslide. Let me know. I like getting that feedback. I like having other ideas for testing, and you know, things that I might just take for granted that somebody wants to know and doesn't. So please let me know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.